G'day, how are we all? And welcome back to some My Summer Car. In today's video, we're going to be doing a 2023 car build for the Satsuma. Basically, this video was supposed to be out like 2-3 months ago, but I've been pretty busy ever since I really got my license. So, you know, here we are. We're just going to get straight into it, no messing around, just so I don't bore you guys to death. What you're going to need before you start the actual build is you are going to need food, beer, just general supplies, cigarettes and stuff to do your stress. Like I got one right here. That's exactly why we need cigarettes in this game. Basically, you just want the basics really, just for, you know, just to survive. Honestly, I'm probably gonna have a shower just so those mosquitoes aren't, you know, annoying you guys. Quick little pee in the shower. So basically, the general stuff to get the car going is over here to my right. Basically, you're going to need yourself 4 wheels, which you can get at the abandoned mansion near Flatari's repair shop. You should definitely bring a hammer with you because that's really the best way to get into the abandoned mansion and whatnot. You need some coolant, some motor oil, 3 brake fluid, 1 battery, 1 alternator belt, 1 box of spark plugs, 1 oil filter, 2 light bulbs, and a fuel mixer gauge. A fuel mixer gauge isn't an exact requirement. It definitely helps, especially if you're new to the game and you don't really know how to like tune the engine with air fuel ratio and stuff like that. But I do highly recommend it because it's just a lot easier to tune the engine. But if you know what the tunes are, like how much you're going to adjust it just with the screwdriver, with the carburetor, it's not too bad. But we're going to be doing it for the sake of the tutorial. And you'll also need a full jerry can of fuel. I did forget to fill it up and I mentioned that in the intro, but I'm saying it now. Make sure you have a full one of these. It's empty at the moment because I've just used it. But make sure you have plenty of fuel for the Satsuma when you first start it. So basically, these are the essentials you need for the car, really. But we're going to get started with the chassis, as I find the chassis is probably like the easiest thing to do on the car, really. And then probably like the body stuff and then the engine. So we're going to start with the subframe. This one basically holds the engine just in place at the front here. And we're going to be using the spanner set as well. We don't have a ratchet set. Bit of a shame, but we're going to be using the spanner set. So it's going to be a bit slower, but that's fine. We're going to be grabbing a 10 mil. Oh, by the way, to enter build mode, you need to press 2. So you can see at the top right how I've got the little spanner and the hammer. That's when I'm in build mode. So press 1, that's just normal. You can grab stuff, whatnot. Press 2, you go into build mode. So I know a lot of people have trouble with that, but I'm just going to say that now. Oh, phone's ringing. I probably should turn that off. All right, make sure you turn that off, just, you know, so it's not ringing in the back. Actually, you should leave it on. But for the video, I'm going to leave it off. So leave the phone connected. So you get those phone calls. We're getting a little distracted here. We are going to be grabbing a 10 mil here. And there are 4 bolts we're going to do. 2 at the front here. Boom. And now there's 2 that are like kind of hidden, which is under the like subframe. But it's also, it's like there basically. There it is. Yeah, they're a little tricky because they're sort of under the car, not the other bolts where you can clearly see them. Boom. So the subframe is now installed. Next, we're going to be grabbing the steering rack, which is here. So the steering rack goes there. Easy. And that is a 9 mil. And we have to do 4 bolts. 2 on each side. There we go. Easy. Next up is going to be the steering column, which is this one here. And this basically connects to the steering rack. Sometimes you got to face the actual part the correct way just so it works. Just like that. The steering column is an 8 mil and that has 2 screws as well. Or bolts, I mean. Sorry, I keep getting that mixed up. There's 2, 1 at the top and 1 at the bottom here. Get a better angle for you guys. There we go. This one's also a little tricky to see as well, so don't forget it. Next up is the wishbones, which are just here. We got a front right and a front left. So we'll put these on first. And the wishbones are a 10 mil, and there is 2 on each wishbone. 1 on the left, 1 on the right. Also, while I'm here, I may as well say, make sure they're properly like done up all the way, like all the way. They can't be loose, otherwise you're gonna have problems. I thought I'd just say that real quick. Next up is the spindles. We've got a front right and a front left. So we'll pop these on real quick. Now with the spindles, there is a bolt that is really tricky. Sometimes I even forget where it is. It should be in the middle. Oh, no, not in the middle, but below where the middle is. So it's like, yeah, it's like just somewhere in there, basically. It's really hard to see, but basically it's a 12 mil, and we're just going to be doing it up. So sort of, so it's just down from where the hole is pretty much. That's done. Next up is the steering rods, which is this. We got a front right and a front left as well. These basically connect to the steering rack, like that. Grab the other one here. Boom. There we go. The steering rod should be a 12 mil, which is just up here. Not that one on the rod, just this one up here. This is the one we've got to do. The other nut is for when we are aligning the wheels, which we'll also do in this video. Boom, those are done. Next up is the disc brakes, which are these over here. These basically just go right onto the spindles. Now we don't want to do these in yet, because what we're going to be doing is installing the half shafts. They connect to the spindles. And basically, if we do that up, we won't be able to install the half shaft. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly put both half shafts in. Boom, just like that. Now we're going to be doing the disc brakes, which is a 14. Right in the middle here. Pretty simple one. Boom, perfect. Now to do the half shafts. For the half shafts, they are a 9 mil, and there's 3. One at the top and one on the bottom left and bottom right. Now you might be thinking, why am I screwing these in now? Why not do it when the engine's in? Like realistically, you would think you would do it after, right? When the engine's in. But the game doesn't really, you know, it's not that realistic. So if you do everything in now, and when you put the engine will just sort of automatically detect that the bolts are screwed in and stuff like that. But I don't think I've had a case where that hasn't happened to me. So every time I've built the car and done everything up, when it doesn't really seem the right time to do it, it sort of automatically detects it anyway. But if you are having troubles, just undo whatever you did before and then just redo it again. Next up is the struts. This is basically the front end of the suspension. We've got a front left and a front right. There we go. Grab the other one here. So for the top screws, it's a 10 mil, which are these ones just here. There we go. We'll do the other side as well. Now with that done, we are now going to grab a 9 mil, and we're going to do the bolts. They're just down here. So there's the strut. Basically sort of, oh my god, yep, that just happened. Okay, we're back. So basically you got the strut, comes down, and basically behind it is 4 bolts you've got to do up. There's 2 on each side, so make sure you do them up all the way properly. I'll probably come around here, and there we go. So that there is the front of the suspension done. Next up, we are going to be doing the back. So we're going to start with the trail arm. We've got a rear left and a rear right. Pop those in there. Put in the other one. There we go. These are a 12 mil. So grab a 12 mil, and we have 2 bolts we've got to do. They're a little tricky because you can't really see that well under the car here. So there's one on that side and one on the other side of the trail arm. Alright, now with that done, next up is the springs. Just these ones over here. You can get different springs up at Flatari's repair shop, but I do recommend you do not get them because they make the car a lot more bouncier and you can tend to lose control a lot easier. So So the stock ones are pretty good, I'd say. No bolts or nothing like that that need to be done. They're just a simple, just on, boom, there they are. Next up is the shock absorber, which we are gonna chuck basically in. See that hole there? Basically, we just want to line that up, really, just like that. And I'm really thirsty at the moment, but I'll quickly just pop in the other shock absorber. There we go. Alright, I'm going to quickly get a drink of water and we'll be back. I got myself something to eat and drink, so we're ready to get back to work. Alrighty, we're going to bring the spanner set just over here now that we're working on this part of the car. Bolts on the shocks that we got to do, which is a 12mm, which we've already got. Basically, we want to sort of crouch down, look over, and we're looking for that bolt right there. So there's the shock absorber, and there's the bolt that just goes up there. Boom. And there's another one on the other side as well, so don't forget that. Alright, so that's those done, and then next is a 6mm, which is quite small, and there are two little tiny bolts that are under here, which we got to do. So basically it'll be one right here and one sort of there it is. This one's a bit tricky as well, so make sure you don't forget these bolts, because I've definitely done it in the past and it's not nice. Alright, now with that done, next up is the drum brakes, which are just over here. Nice. And for those, it is a 14mm, and basically just one big bolt that goes right in the middle. Alrighty, there we go. That is all of the chassis complete and slash suspension. So basically, actually we're not really done because we've got to chuck on the wheels. And to do that, we are going to be grabbing ourselves a floor jack here. And basically we're just going to line it up just like that. And we're going to lift this up. About there should do. Right, let's grab one wheel. Pop you on. And let's grab another wheel, pop you on the other side, boom. And to do those, it is a 13mm, which is this one here, and we're gonna do it up. Alrighty, so that's the front wheels done. Let's now lower the jack, and then let's move it to the rear, and then pop on the back wheels as well. And there we go. That is the wheels installed. Pop the floor jack just out of the way here. Boom. And there we go. Chassis is complete with the wheels and everything. We can do the wheel alignment right now, but I'm probably going to save all the alignment and the tuning and stuff like that at the end of the video. I like to usually do it at the end just because it's, you know, that's how I usually do it and it works pretty well for me. So we're just going to do the tuning and all that at the end of the video. But what we're going to be doing is we are going to be pushing the Satsuma in the garage. Now, since we've accidentally, you know, moved the Satsuma here, it's going to be a little awkward to get it in now. But we're just going to carefully line ourselves up here, push the car. Now, when you're pushing the car, since it's not aligned, the wheels, it is going to move to one side like it's kind of doing now. Yeah, it's moving a bit to the right, but basically if we just carefully, so we're just going to make small increments here and just move the car slowly but surely. Try not to push it too hard because you don't have a handbrake and it's, you know, can't really control when the car can stop, but if you push it slowly, you'll be right. I reckon that will do. Yeah, that's I like where that's at. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so Satsuma is in the shed. So now you can work on the car at night since you've got lighting and stuff, which is good. I'm going to move the spanner set inside, and I reckon what we're going to be doing is the engine next. So let's get started. Actually, you know what? I was going to do the engine, but I reckon we should change it up this year. I reckon we might do the exterior. We'll do the exterior, we'll do the interior, and then we'll do the engine, and then we'll do the side stuff for the engine, and see what comes up next. Right, So we're going to start with the fenders. We've got a fender right and a fender left. So pop that on. By the way, if you put something on the car and it instantly falls off, just give it a moment and then try to put it back on and see if it works. And the fenders are a 5mm, pretty small, and there is 5 we've got to do. So there are 3 that's on the top here. And then there is 2 at the bottom, at the front here. So there's 1 near the headlight. And there's 1 that's a bit hidden, which is further down from just where the headlight one is, just down under here. And we'll just do the same on the other side as well. Alright, there we go. The fenders are on. Next up, we are going to do the doors. We'll do the right one first, since we're over here. There we go. Tuck the other one on as well. Boom. Now with the doors, there's a little trick. You don't want to fully open the door, otherwise they'll fall off just like that. So basically, the trick is, let's quickly put this on. There we go. The trick is not to hold the mouse button, but to click it. Simply click it, and it will actually, you'll see the door, it clicks into place, but it doesn't fall off, sort of thing. You haven't just completely, you know, thrown the door open and it's fallen off. So you've opened it and it's sat where it can sit, where you can install it. And to do those, it is a 10mm. There we go. And there is 4 bolts that we got to do. We'll get inside just so it's easier. There is 2 on the bottom here, and there's 2 at the top here. Pretty easy to see. Can't really miss them. And then, boom, there we go. So when you open up the door fully, it doesn't fall off. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. And there we go. Both doors are in. Make sure that this is on properly, which it is. Good. So that's the doors done. Next up, we're going to do the boot lid, which is just here. And we're going to pop you on. Oh, see how it just broke? What we're going to do is just going to take it off, let it chill for a moment. Then pick it up again. We should get the option. There it is. Boom. Perfect. That time it didn't fall off. Now with this one, you can fully open it without it falling off, which is good. Same thing with opening and closing it. Alright, so to do those, we are going to need a 6mm. And there is 4 bolts we're going to do. And they're basically just up this little thingo here. And basically, we just got 2 that we've got to do. Alright, there we go. Boot is now installed. We're going to do the bumpers. We got the rear bumper, which we'll do first. Put you on. Should just sit somewhere around here. Same thing can happen again with the bumpers, where it can just fall off as you try to put it on. Do the little trick where you just let it chill for a moment and then try to put it back on. There we go. And for those, it is a 8mm. Yep, there should be 2 that are kind of hidden, but you can just sort of see where the screw would sit in, sort of thing. So same on the other side here. And then on this side, you can't actually really see them. It's really just like real narrow and tight. You can't really see it. So if you pretty much just move your mouse around, you'll see where the screw will sort of pop in. A little, yeah, it's a little funny, the rear. You might have to get on the side here and just do that. Same on the other side. Just, yep, on the side here. Boom. Alright, perfect. So rear and front bumper is done. Next up, we'll do the grill, the stock grill. Put that on. Oh, there we go. And for that, it is a 6mm, and there is 2 that we've got to do. And they're basically located on the top right and top left of where the grill is. Just above the headlight. And boom, there we go. Next up is the headlights, which is actually just located over here. And pretty much we're going to pop, oh, wrong one, you in there. And you in there. And for the headlights, they are a 7mm. Now, you might be thinking, you haven't put the bulb in. Well, we haven't. But we're going to be doing that once we do the wiring. So, because when we do the wiring, we'll have to rip out the grille and the headlights anyway. So, technically, it's not really that good to do the exterior now, but we're mixing things up a little, you know. Do these in, boom, perfect. Next up is the rear lights, which is just here. So rear lights, boom, located next to the headlights, which is convenient. Boom, there we go. Those will need wiring, so where they are now is good. And then the hubcaps for the wheels are just up on the shelf, just up here. Alright, so those are on, and that's it. That's really it for the exterior. There is the hood that we've got to put on, but we don't want to put that on because with the hood on, we can't really get the engine in, sort of thing. So even if we open it, it doesn't open up like that way. It opens up that way. So it's like, you know, but we're going to be leaving the hood till like sort of last when we get the engine in and whatnot. So that's pretty much it for the exterior. So I reckon we are now going to move on to the interior. And let's do that now. So with the interior, we are going to start with the steering wheel, which is on the shelf at the top right, pretty much over here. Put the wheel on there. And to do that, that is a 10mm. Have a 10mm. And there's one single nut that we've got to do right in the middle of the wheel. Done. I'm actually going to move the car a little bit over this way, just so it stops clipping onto the table when I open up the door. That's better. Next up is the gear stick, and the gear stick is just located in the corner here. The gear stick basically goes right here. Boom. There's 3 bolts that we got to do, and those are a 6mm. There we go. Get inside. There's one at the top here. And 2 at the bottom. Alright, there we go. So that's the gear stick done. Next up is the handbrake. Now the handbrake can be a little tricky at times because it can tend to fall off if you don't have it properly connected. So we want to make sure that this is on. It is a size 8 to secure it to the car. But there's another one that we've got to do to... We've got to basically connect up the line after we hook this up. Alright, so make sure this is all the way in. Perfect. Now let's grab a 5mm and we're going to go under the car here. And what we're looking for is the line. So basically you got this little line, this black line that are going towards sort of the middle. And there it is. That there is what we got to do up. So you've got the handbrake here, and basically the cable just runs all the way down here into this little little piece here, and basically we want to do up this bolt. Go. So that bolt's done. Now since that is all in, we can actually engage the handbrake and confirm that it doesn't want to fall off. Yep. Well, I'm going to leave it on since we don't want the car sort of rolling around now. Now we want the front seats. So we got the driver and the passenger seat. I might do the passenger first. Let's put you in there. We'll do the driver's side. Now you got to be careful with the seats because they can be a little glitchy. And to do those, it is a 9mm, and we've got to do 4 bolts. Now these are a little tricky as well, so you can see how they're like kind of hidden, sort of thing. So do this one, and there's another one on the right here somewhere. This is also a hidden one. Yeah, so move your mouse around till you find the actual bolt. Do it in. Boom. Now on the other side, there'll be a bolt, basically where the front one was on the other side. And the same thing with the back, should be located around the same sort of area, but just on the other side. Boom, that's the driver's seat done. And pretty much the same thing with the passenger side where the bolts are located. That's pretty much where you're looking to do it up at. And there we go. So both seats are in, driver and passenger. While we're doing the seats, we may as well do the rear seats as well. So which is just located outside. Now once again, you got to be careful with the rear seat because it can be a little glitchy. And in you go. This should be the same size, so size 9. And there's basically 2 we've got to do. There's one at the front on the left here and one on the right. And boom, that's the rear seat all in. That's good. So the seats are in. Now we got a choice. We can either do the back panel here, or we could do the subwoofer panel. But I kind of like the back panel because we don't really have any like subwoofers in the car. It looks kind of nice, the back panel. All right, next up is the dashboard. And once again, the dashboard can be a little glitchy. It can break your windshield if you don't put it in right, sort of thing. So you just want to be pretty gentle with it. It can also move the car as well if you're not careful. So put that in, and to do that, it is a 10 mil. Now there is one bolt there, and there is another bolt on the inside here where the glove box was. It's getting a bit dark. I reckon we should probably turn that on for a bit of better lighting. Alright, so next up is the dashboard meters. Now with the dashboard meters, you can install either the clock gauge or the RPM gauge. But for the sake of the tutorial, we're going to install the clock gauge since we have it. And what we want to do is put it in that hole there, just like that. And what we want to do is flip it upside down and do these bolts here, which is a 7 mil. So we'll grab a 7 mil and just do this one up. Boom, that's done. Now we're going to grab a 6 mil and pick this up, and we're going to carefully, what we want to do is carefully put in the dashboard meters, just like that. And we have 2 screws on the side here that we need to do, which is a 6 mil. So I'll just grab a 6 mil there. And basically we want to do these 2 bolts on the dashboard here. Oh, and I forgot the radio. I completely forgot about the radio. My bad. Well, good thing that doesn't need to be bolted in. We can simply just grab it, which is just over here. And we can basically just put it in just like that. And it's already hooked up. It just needs wiring so it can actually work. And that there is the interior. So we got the seats, the gear stick, the handbrake, the wheel, the dashboard. Yeah, we got all that good stuff. So that's all the interior done. That was pretty quick, pretty simple. I reckon we're going to move on to the engine now. So let's get started. Alrighty then. So we are now ready to start building the engine. There is a lot we got to go over through when it comes to the engine. So what we're going to start with is the block. The block's just down here, and what we want to do is just rotate it on its like upside down basically. And pop it down just like that. Next up is the crankshaft here, and just pop that in. Simple, right? Now what we want to grab is the main bearings, which is just over here near the rocker shaft. There is 1, 2, and 3. 3 goes to the left, 2 goes into the middle, and 1 goes into the right. I might move this air filter just out of the way, just so I can put my spanner set here. Particularly for the main bearings, they are a 9 mil, and there is 2 that we've got to do on each bearing. That's those done. Next up are the pistons. Now, what I like to do is flip it up on its right side again, and grab piston 1. Now, by just looking at the piston, you can actually tell that they're pretty worn down. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get a piston that still has like a silver head on it. And basically, that means it's at least like 50%, or maybe more if you're lucky. But it's all random. But in this case, we didn't get so lucky and we got all the bad pistons. So they will need replacing pretty soon. What we're going to do is we're going to flip it upside down again, and we're going to grab a 7 mil. And we've got 2 nuts that we've got to do on each piston. Alright, there we go. Pistons are now done. So what we're going to do is flip the engine up again, just like that. And we are now going to put on the head gasket. Just boom, there it is. And then now we are going to do the cylinder head, which is next to the oil pan here. Pop that on, and basically this is a 7 mil. Alright, there we go. Now with that done, we want to get the rocker shaft, which is here next to the alternator, and pop that on, just like that. And for the rockers, it is a size 8. Now, as you can see, the rocker shaft, by looks of where the screws are and that, they're not really aligned very well. Usually, if you want, you can like align the rockers like right now, sort of thing, while you have the rocker cover not on, sort of thing. But we'll do it at the end of the video. So we'll do the rocker cover just to cover up the rockers, which is a 7mm for the rocker cover, and there is 6 that we've got to do, 3 on each side. Alrighty, there we go. The rocker cover is now on. Next, we are going to do the headers. It's over here next to the starter. That just goes on, oh, just like that. And that is a 8mm. Oh, that's an 8mm for the headers. Now, there's 5 nuts that we got to do on this one. There's two that are on this side. 1 in the middle up here. And another 2 up here. Now they are kind of tricky because they're a little hidden, especially the bottom ones. If you look around, you can easily do them up. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do is we are gonna put the engine on the hoist here, the motor hoist. You can do it with or without the motor hoist. It's really up to you. But for this video, I'm just gonna do it with the motor hoist. And by the looks of it, I think I might have to put it on the ground here. I keep forgetting about that. Alrighty, there we go. So what we want to do is, a lot of people still have trouble with this. You want to align these chains up basically with this, right? So as you can see, not aligned properly. And you know why? Because the engine is actually the wrong way. So you want the engine to face this way. So the spark plugs are towards the hoist, right? Oh, we may actually have to improvise a little here. Pop you on there like that. Move that back a bit, go up, push it forward, boom, there we go. You can see that the bolt actually appears, sort of thing. And to do those up, it is a 10mm, and basically we do one up here and do the other on the other side, and boom, there we go. Engine is now connected to the motor hoist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up a little bit and just lift it. Now, another thing, do not like throw the hoist around, sort of thing. So be real gentle when you're moving it, because you don't want to like do that. And you see how the engine was like sort of like freaking out there? You don't want that to happen, because it can bug out the game. If it ends up flying off, it will still be connected, and it's just a mess, really. We might honestly do the spark plugs. So let's grab our box of spark plugs, which is just out here. Got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we want is the spark plug wrench to do those up. So we'll grab 1 spark plug. Put you in there. And what we want to do is use the spark plug wrench and screw these in all the way. Now, when you do the spark plugs, make sure they're all the way in, like all the way. You don't want one click off, because when you have that, you'll have starting problems. You'll just have electrical problems, really, when you don't have all spark plugs in. So, like, you can't have that. You got to have it all the way in, right? So all of those are in. Let's not touch the spark plugs anymore, right? All right, next up is the camshaft, which is this little rod thing here. And this is a bit tricky to get in, but basically we want to get it in that little hole there. So what I like to do is sort of just do that sort of thing. So have the face of the engine and pop it in, just like that. And there are the little screws or bolts we got to do. And that is a 5mm for 2 of these. All right, that's all in. Next up is the camshaft gear. And we just put that right on top of you. And for the camshaft gear, it is a size 10. Now, this is where we have to align the camshaft gear. So this is what I was talking about. You got to be very, very careful with this. You got to make sure it's correct. Otherwise, yeah. So basically, what we're looking for is that little black line there. That matches up with that, which automatically does. So don't worry about it. But basically, what we're looking for is that black line there, and what we want is to line up with that perfectly. I'm talking perfectly. We don't want it one over or one under. We want it spot on. Screw it in all the way. Once it's in all the way, it will start moving, right? So we've just moved it one click. Let's move it again. And boom, look at that. That is perfect. That is like lined up very well. So we don't want to touch that anymore, right? Leave it alone. Next up is the timing chain. And we just put that on just like that. So it goes around the gear and around the crankshaft. Next up is the timing cover, which is this thing over here. And basically we'll put that right over the camshaft, just like that. And to do the cover up, it is a 6mm. And we got to do 6 of these. With the cover on, we are now going to put on the water pump, which is just next to the pulley, water pump pulley and the alternator. And we're going to put you at the top just like that. And for the water pump, it is a 7mm, and we've got to do up 5 nuts. Or actually, technically 1 bolt and 4 nuts. Alrighty, there we go. That's all on. Next up is the water pump pulley. That just goes right on top of you. And that should be the same size as 7. So that's pretty easy. Alrighty, there we go. That's the water pump pulley now on. Next up is the crankshaft pulley, which is this thing over here. That just goes basically where the crankshaft is. Crankshaft pulley is a size 11. We only got 1 big bolt that we've got to do. Next up is the alternator, which is this thing over here. This basically connects to the right side here. Just like that. Now we've got 2 bolts that we've got to do. One is a 10mm, which is a tricky one. Basically, it's behind the alternator right there. So don't forget that one, because I have in the past, and it's not too bad, but it's definitely not a good idea. And for the other one, it is a 7mm, which is just up here. So pretty much you got the alternator, and then whoa, there it is. Make sure you get that one as well. And there is a screw that we've got to do up as well. So what I will do is grab the alternator belt. Since we're doing the alternator, you may as well chuck the belt on. And pretty much you just line it up. Boom. There we go. I would align the alternator belt right now, but for the tutorial, I'm going to show you guys what it's like when you don't have it all fully tuned up and all the noises that it makes, except for the camshaft, because that would be really bad. And that means I would have to get a whole new engine, pretty much. So we're just going to leave the alternator. So when we start up the car, we're going to hear a little ringy noise. It's very painful. It's like a very high-pitched noise. I'm a little hungry and quite stressed out, so we're going to have a quick smoko break, I reckon. Alright, next up is the distributor, which is this thing here, next to the oil filter and near the flywheel. And this basically goes on the front, just basically where that hole is. Boom, there we go. And to do that up, we need a screwdriver. We can align this, but we can't really do it when the engine's off, because you can really only align it with hearing like a little noise, a little ringing noise. So when we start up the car, we'll just notice all the noises that it's making. We'll fix it all up and you'll see. Next up is the engine plate. That's it there next to the oil pan, and this goes on the opposite side of the engine. So we're now working on this side of the engine. Next up is the starter, which is this thing over here, and this goes basically where that hole is. Boom. And to do that, it is a 7mm. There is a hidden bolt that you can do. Now there's one that's open, which is this one, and there's the other one. The other one is just basically sort of under the starter, pretty much. That's another one that I used to forget back in the day, but now it's like just drilled into my brain, so it's like I can't really forget it. Next up is the flywheel, which is this thing here, and we're gonna basically put that on the engine plate, just like that. And that is also a 7mm. So we're gonna do that up real quick. Now we are going to do the clutch assembly. So basically we've got the cover plate, the pressure plate, and the clutch disc. What I start with is I put the pressure plate onto the plate here, the cover plate, boom, and then I grab the clutch disc and then put it in there, and then basically boom, you got the clutch right here, and this goes right on top of the flywheel. And to do that one up, it is a size 6. Alright, there we go. That's the clutch all done. Next up is the oil pan, which is this thing over here. And this goes under the engine, just like that. Now we've got 2 bolts for this. I might start with the big one, which is a 13, and that's basically the big one just down under here. You definitely don't want that one to be undone, because when you put the oil in, you don't want it to just come right back out. So that's definitely one you should do first. And then to do the others, to hold it in place to the block, it is a 7mm, and there is 8 that we've got to do, 4 on each side. Now there is one that's sort of hidden, like next to the starter, so make sure you get that one as well. Alright, there we go, that's the oil pan done. Next up is the gearbox, which is this big thing over here. This goes on facing like that. Boom. Now there's 2 bolts that we got to do. I might do, once again, the big one, which is a 10mm. Oh, and it's raining. What do you know? Big bolt is just here, so it's it's kind of hidden. I used to forget it as well. You got the back of the engine, and then it sort of goes down from the headers, and there it is. There we go. So there's that one done. We want to grab a 7mm now, and we want to grab the inspection cover, which is this thing here, and we basically put it on the gearbox like that. Boom. And we basically do up the gearbox. Now, from what I've heard, without the inspection cover, you can fail emissions or something like that. So make sure you got that inspection cover on. Right, now with that on, we are going to now do the drive gear, which is this thing here. I've had it in the past where this can sort of glitch out, where it falls off randomly when you start the car. So if the car just doesn't move or anything like that, just look under the car, make sure there's nothing under it, like a drive gear or piston or oil. And to do that up, it is a 6mm. And there is 7 that we've got to do. There we go. Now with those done, there is one that's just up the little, like a little rod here. Then there's the 7th nut that we've got to do. And boom, that's the drive gear all in. Next up's the carburetor, which is this here. And that just goes on with the headers. And to do that, it is an 8mm. And there is 4 that we've got to do. They are a little tricky. So there's 2 on the left here. Boom. And then we come over to the other side. And then there's the other 2. There we go. That's the carburetor in. Alright, now we're going to do the air filter. May as well, since we're working with the carburetor. That is a 6mm, and there's 2 just on the back here. So you got like a little support thing there that comes up. Alright, now with that done, we are now going to grab the oil filter, which is all in the rain. Same with the battery. I don't know if that can really affect it, to be honest. I don't know. We're going to find out one way or another. So the oil filter just goes on this little like rod thing here, and basically you just do that up by hand. With the scroll wheel, so forward to do up and backwards to undo. Next up is the fuel pump, which is this thing here next to the electrics. That basically goes just there, sort of thing. That's also a 7mm, which we don't have. I thought we did. Okay, well, it's a 7mm to do the fuel pump. Now there's 2 that we've got to do, and there they are. Those are the 2 nuts that we've got to do. And boom, there we go. Alrighty, that's everything for the engine. You may have noticed that we have an oil filter here. This is like the one that really you get for free, and I honestly don't use it really. I don't think I really have, to be honest, because it looks dirty. Like, look at it. It's an old oil filter. I doubt it would work. So yeah, we're just gonna leave that be. That's the engine all done. But what we're gonna do now is we're gonna actually put it in the Satsuma. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna carefully move the motor hoist facing the Satsuma. Gonna basically just move it so it's like dead center as possible. Make sure it's not too far forward or too far back. I reckon about there looks pretty good. And to secure the engine to the subframe, we are gonna need a 11mm, and there is 3 bolts that we're gonna do. But before we do that, we have to lower engine into the Satsuma. So slowly does it. Okay, I think we're a little, yeah, too far back. Let's move it a bit forward. So you may have to adjust bit by bit as you move it down. Alrighty, how we looking? Yeah, a little too far forward. Let's now move it back and a bit left. Alright, how's that looking? That's pretty good. I might move it up just a little bit. And as you can see, there's bolts that have appeared. And when those appear, that means the engine can be secured on. So I'll just show you, for example, if it's not properly aligned. Oh. There we go. So the bolts are no longer there. So that means you can't actually put the engine in. And boom, there are the bolts again. Now what I'm going to do is move it a bit back, lower it. And it's best to get it as close as possible to the actual subframe, because if you do it up when it's not near the subframe, it can sort of glitch out where it like moves the engine and light and then moves the car, and it's not really good. So it's best to get it as close as possible. So what we're going to do, boom, just do it up 2 clicks and it automatically just clicks in. And basically you want to do up these bolts before you do anything else. So there's 2 at the front here. There's 1 around the back where the gearbox is. You can see the bolt right there. So you got the steering rack, the gearbox, and then boom, there's the bolt. That'll also do the same thing. It will appear when you're close enough. The half shafts are already connected. Just got to make sure that's in. Okay. Alrighty. So that's the engine put in. Now to get the engine off the hoist, we are going to need a 10mm. And once again, we just come down here and we undo the chains from the block and the headers. Boom, there we go. Hear that little click? There's confirmation that the engine has dismounted off the hoist. Alrighty, look at that. Beautiful. That is fantastic. So the engine is now in the Satsuma and we're almost there. We're almost there. Next we'll do the other engine stuff, so like the fuel tank, the exhaust, the radiator, electrics, the brake lining, clutch lining, all that good stuff. And then after that's done, I think we do the wiring and should be all set, I think. So yeah, let's move on to that. Let's get started, eh? So we're going to start off with the electrics, which is just over here on the shelf. And these go on the left here next to the regulator, which is that thing there. And basically, boom, it just sits in there like that. So for the electrics, it is an 8mm. And we've got to do 2 bolts. Next up is the fuel strainer, which is this thing here next to the gear linkage. And this pretty much goes just down in the corner here, just below where the electrics was just put in. And for that, that is also an 8mm. And there's only 1 bolt we've got to do in it. And it's just to secure the fuel strainer to the car. Next up is the radiator, which is down the corner here. And this goes at the front, just behind the grille. And for the radiator, it is a 7mm. And we've got to do 4 bolts in total, 2 on each side. Alright, there we go. Now we are going to do the radiator hoses. And the hoses are located with the radiator in the corner here. We're going to start with radiator hose 3. And this one goes down to the bottom, so where that hole is. And pretty much we want to sort of line it up so it fits. It's a little tricky sometimes. You might have to sort of eyeball it a bit. There we go. So basically you want it to go from there and sort of up and around behind the engine here. We're going to be screwing them in later after we get all the hoses in place. Alright, we're going to grab radiator hose 1. And this one is probably the easiest one. This goes from that hole to that hole there. Boom, just like that. Easy peasy. Now, this one's a little tricky for radiator hose 2 because you might have to play around a bit. But let's see if we can get it in pretty easily. Yeah, it's a little tricky. So what you want is for this hose to go from there into there. All right, now for the radiator hoses, it is pretty simple. You just need a screwdriver and you just scroll up with the mouse wheel and you do up the radiator hoses. Now, I must say, if you have the radiator hoses loose, you're going to have leaking problems, like coolant leaking and stuff. So you definitely don't want that. I've had that in a few of my episodes where the radiator is just leaking for no reason. So make sure all your hoses are tight as much as possible. I don't think that clamp has a tighten bit on it. I think it's just 3 that actually, yeah, it's just these you got to do. Now make sure all of them are tightened up, which they are very well. All right, next up is the clutch and brake master cylinders. We're going to start with the brake one first. And then we're going to grab the clutch master cylinder, which is over here. Put that right in there. And to secure those in, we are going to need an 8mm. And pretty much we've got... It is a little tricky, but we'll start with the brake one. There's 2. One at the top and one at the bottom. This one has a right and a left nut that we've got to do. A little tricky. A bit tight. But they're not that bad to locate, really. So 2 on each cylinder. Now we're going to be doing the lining for them. We'll start with the clutch lining first, since that's the easiest one. Pretty much the lining goes at the back here. It's a little tricky sometimes. Pretty much you want to put it right there. And you can see it sort of just lays up against the car here. With the clutch lining, it is a 7mm. Now these are a little tricky to locate. So what you want to do is you want to follow the line, and there it is. There's the nut that we've got to do. So there's one that goes into the cylinder, the clutch cylinder. If you follow the line, you'll see there's a little thing here. You can't do that up. It's just, I don't know what that is. You follow it, keep following it, and then, oh, there's one right there that goes into the, like, drive gear, gearbox sort of thing. Yeah, so that's the clutch lining all done. Next up is the brake lining. The brake lining pretty much sits where the clutch lining also sits. So right there. Actually, it technically sits below it. Yeah, so just a bit below where the clutch lining sits. Now, with the brake lining, pay attention because this gets pretty tricky. You're going to need a 7mm, which we've already got. We're going to start with the engine part first. So we've got 2 nuts here for the cylinder. We'll do those ones first. Also, I should mention there is 11 nuts that we've got to do, alright? So keep count of how many you do up. 11. So that's 1, 2, and there's one that's hidden down there. So we'll do that one since we can see it. That's 3. Now, if we just go left here, left, and then over here, you see that there's like a little thingo here. And there is some nuts that we've got to do as well. So we'll do those. Right, so that's 3 there. And that there is... Oh, no, there's one more as well. There's a little tricky one. I nearly actually forgot about that. There's one at the top here. So you got 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. I feel like I've only just noticed that. Alright, so that there, we've done 1, 2, 3... 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we're going to move on to the wheels. So the brake lining goes to the wheels pretty much. So you got the line here, comes down, and then there it is. So you got the spindle here, and pretty much it connects into that, and you want to do that nut up there. So you can sort of see where the line goes, and there's the nut there. Same on the other side. There's the line. Comes down onto the spindle, and you just do that nut. Boom, that's the front wheels done. So we're going to move over to the rear now. The rear ones are a little easier to find, but what you want to do is you want to lean in, and there is the line there. You can see the bolt, or the nut, I mean, actually just sitting there sort of floating. So if we do that one up, boom, it sits there perfectly. Same on the other side. Just secures it right to the trail arm. And there we go. That's the 11th brake lining that we've done. So keep count of how many you've done, because if you miss one, you might be, you know, be having some braking troubles, which you definitely don't want. All right, next up is the fuel tank. So pretty much you want to get under the car here, and this sits at the rear where the rear wheels are. Boom, just like that. For the fuel tank, it is a 7mm. Which we've already got. For the fuel tank, it is a 11. bolts are to secure the fuel tank to the Satsuma. And there are 7 that we've got to do. And then there's 3 at the front of the fuel tank here. Now you may have just seen this bolt here, I mean the nut, and when that's not connected in, you don't get any fuel pretty much. So we're going to be doing that right now. And for that nut, it is a 12 mil. So you want to come down here, and then there it is pretty much. Next up is the fuel tank pipe. This one's pretty simple, don't need any tools. What you want to do is you want to get to the rear right side here, and you want to have to play around a little bit to get it in the right spot. There we go. Boom. That's that done. Don't need any tools. Next up is the exhaust pipe. The exhaust pipe is located just down under here. And what we can do is that since it's already like facing kind of the right way, all we can do is grab it, straighten it up a little bit, and simply pick it up, rotate it, jump up, and line it up just like that. Easy peasy. Sometimes your exhaust might fall off. If it does, just once again let it sit for a bit and just try to put it back on. If your exhaust keeps falling off, just you know, restart the game if it continues to fall off. And to do that, it is a 7 mil, and we've got 3 bolts that we've got to do. One at the back here. Right, now we want to move down, and pretty much there is 2 that go. There's the exhaust pipe, and it goes straight into the headers. There's 2 bolts that secure that one in. There we go, those are all done. Next up is the exhaust muffler, which is here, and this goes, actually I might just line it up first. Yeah, this goes out the back here. So you see where the pipe is? That's the end of the exhaust pipe. Pretty much that just goes right there. Same thing can happen as well. The exhaust muffler can fall off as well. So if it keeps falling off, try to, you know, put it back on. If it continues to do so, restart the game. And yeah, and that's also a 7 mil. And there's only one you've got to do, which is pretty easy. All right, that's the exhaust done. Next up is the gear linkage, which is down here next to the old battery, which doesn't work. Now, this goes under the car, so what we want to do is we want to line it up sort of with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it and have it as straight as possible. And basically, yeah, you want to line up this little end bit here with that, and boom, there you go. To do that one up, it is a 5 mil. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump on down, and there are 2 bolts and 1 nut that we've got to do. We'll start with the easy ones, which are down here, which connect into the gearbox. Pretty much. This one I used to forget a lot. Like, this was probably the biggest part, which I forgot to do up. So don't do that, right? Make sure you do the gear linkage, because otherwise you won't be able to get in gear. Those 2 are done. Now you want to follow the gear linkage up, and there will be a nut right there that you have to do up. And that's it. I know there's another little thingo that goes up here that goes to really nowhere. You can't really do anything up there, but there's one up there which is from this little pipe here. So that's the gear linkage all done. And now we've got to do the batteries. So we're going to grab the battery real quick. Oh wow, it's dark. Okay. All right, let's grab the battery, pick that up, and simply this just goes right in here, and boom, there's the battery. Yeah, and that's everything for the other engine stuff, really. And you know what? Since we're here, we may as well do the hood, since we have everything in the engine bay that we need. So we're going to quickly chuck this on. There we go. And to open it back up, you want to simply open up the door, pull the hood lock, and pop it open. Doesn't matter if you hold the click button, it's not going to fall off. It might fall off when you like close it. In this case, it didn't. And to do the hood up, it is a 6 mil, and there are 4 bolts that we've got to do, 2 on each side. And there we go. All right, so that's everything for the other engine stuff. And now we've got the hood on. Look at that. The car almost looks... it is complete, but we just need to do some other stuff to make it actually run and function. Also, as well, I keep forgetting this. I think I've forgotten about this in like the last 2 car builds that I've done. But the mud flaps. We've got to put the mud flaps on. This is a rear left, so that goes there. And the rear right. You can't forget about the mud flaps. I think I've forgotten to put those on in the last like 2 car builds that I've done, pretty much. Well, I've left it at the very, very end of the video. But we didn't do it this year. Really. I don't know. But yeah, we're going to move over to the wiring now. And I will say, it does get very, very complex. And a lot of people get confused with it. So, I'm going to explain everything you need to know about wiring. Alright, let's move on to the wiring now. First things first, we got to find our wiring mess, which is located right here. Top shelf. Or second from the top shelf, I guess. So, we got the wiring mess. Pop it down. We're going to need the spanner set because we're going to have to undo a few things. And what we want to do is open up the hood. Right, so we're going to have to undo a few things to do the wiring. And that is the headlights and the starter. So what we're going to do is we are firstly going to remove the grill. The reason why is because you can't really remove the headlights with the grill on. So we've got to take that off first. And the headlights are a 7mm. So we'll take these off real quick. We'll put the light bulbs in as well. For those who are just like really triggered by me not doing that first. I do apologize. Alright, now with those off, we can now do the wiring for the headlights. And since I think we already have a 7. Yeah, we already have a 7. Now we want to undo 1 bolt. I repeat, 1 bolt from the starter. Alright, not both, but 1. And that 1 bolt is this one here. Not the one that's hidden at the back, but just the one at the front here. We just want to undo it. All the way. Right? So the starter should not be able to come off, right? We just want that bolt undone so we can actually wire it. So that there is everything that we need to undo for the wiring. A thing I want to mention is that with the wiring, you cannot mess up the wiring. A lot of people are like worried that they're gonna get the wiring messed up. So like, for example, you hook up the like alternator to like the radio. That's not possible. You can't physically do that because the game won't let you, right? So let's say, like, I'll show you guys, for example, right? Let's say I want to hook up the alternator, right? The alternator, right? Let's hook that up to, let's hook it up to the rear light left. See that? Nothing happened. So pretty much it was just a no-no. It didn't make a noise. It didn't do anything. What it does is it kind of resets it, but it also kind of confuses you a little bit because now the game is thinking, are you hooking up the alternator to something or the rear light to something? Now, we're going to start with the rear because the rear of the car is pretty easy to wire up. Now, let's say I want to start with the rear harness connector, right? Look at that. It's hooked up to the left rear light automatically because I tried to hook it up to something else which didn't work. I feel like I'm explaining this really weirdly, but pretty much the game is a little funky like that. You just, if you mess something up and then try to like hook something up with something, it might work out of nowhere and you don't know what it's just hooked up to. But don't worry, if it's making that little noise, I'll show you guys what that little noise is. That little noise there, that there tells you that you've wired it up correctly. If you're wiring stuff up and it's making a little shock noise, that means your battery's connected, which you will have to disconnect because you can shock yourself and you can die basically in the game. But yeah, I'm a little off track here. So we just connected the left rear light and the right rear light to the, what is it? The rear harness connector. So we're going to go rear harness connector to the fuel tank, which is just here. There's a little hole that you can see there, and pretty much that just hooks up just like that. And that there is all of the rear done. Let's now move on to the headlights. Why not, since we're here? Now, there is a front light connector, which is under the battery here, which is that right there. That little connector there. So what we want to do is press F. And press F to that. And now we press F on front lights connector again. And headlight left. Boom. Those are the headlights done. I'll do these up after we've done all the wiring, so we'll just leave it be. Now with the front lights connector, right, we go from there to the main harness connector, which is these little wires here, not the fuse box, the main harness connector. What we want to do, press F, boom. Those are the front lights connector hooked up. Now let's go from the main harness connector to the regulator, which is this little small white thing here. Now let's go main harness connector to positive terminal on the battery. There it is. Let's go main harness connector to ignition coil. Main harness connector to radiator, which is, you can see the wire from the radiator fan. What we want to do is hook that up. Boom. There's the radiator fan all hooked up. Let's go positive terminal to the starter. You might accidentally do battery ground connector. That's not right. You want the starter. So you want the positive terminal to the starter. And now let's go from the negative terminal to the battery ground connector. This is where you hook it up. There we go. So when you hook up the positive terminal to the starter, basically it creates another little nut that you've got to do up. So make sure you do that up after you've wired it up, but we'll do it all after we've finished wiring. Let's go regulator to the alternator. And that there is everything for the engine bay. Now we're going to do the inside of the car. So hook up all the dash, the radio, all that good stuff. All right. So this can be a little confusing because we can't really see where the wires are. Now you can just rip out the dash, but then you can't really hook up everything. So the easiest way to do it is just lean in and you can see that there's little connection points. Oh my God. I completely forgot. Okay. Stop everything. I've completely forgot that we have to do the bolts for the master cylinders for the brake and clutch. So for the bolts that I've just seen, it's a 9mm. So grab yourself a 9mm right now. Forget the wiring for just a second. Grab yourself a bloody 9mm and get under here, right? But look at these pedals. See these pedals? Boom. There's a nut. There's a bolt that we've got to do. Both bolts. Do them up. Oh my God, I can't believe I've forgotten this again. I can't believe it. I think I've forgotten this twice in a row now. When you use the pedals, those master cylinders aren't going to really work. So make sure you do them bolts up. I completely forgot to do it again. I can't believe it. So make sure you do those, right? I hate to, you know, interrupt the whole wiring thing, but that was kind of more important. All right, those are done. Let's get back to the wiring now. Lean forward and you've got a connector here. And you've got a connector here, and then that there is the fuse box. Now let's grab our wiring mess and let's just sort of lean forward here. Let's press F for the fuse box, and what we want to do is hook up to instrument panel 1, and then let's go back to the fuse box and let's do instrument panel 2. Okay, the radio harness there, so that's that one there, radio harness to the radio. There we go. So there's that wire that goes into the back of the radio. Now we're going to be messing around with this one here, which is the dash harness connector. So we want to press F on that, and we want to go to the light switch, which is over there. Light switch, F. There we go. Now, since we have the AFR gauge, we may as well wire that up while we're here. So let's grab our fuel mixture gauge here, and what you do is you put it in the left corner here, just like that. Easy peasy. Grab our wiring mess, dash harness connector. We put that to the AFR gauge. Boom, that's that wired up. So let's go back to the fuse box, and from the fuse box to the ignition switch. There we go. So that's the ignition switch all hooked up. Now you might get like a pop-up like this, for example. Sometimes you need certain things to wire up, like for example, like the subwoofer system. We don't have a subwoofer system, so we can't really hook it up to the radio harness. What we just did was the base line of wiring. So for the radio harness, right, we're missing two little thingos there. Basically, they connect to the amplifier and the speakers, which we don't have, so we can't really wire that up. And then, yeah, there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. That is all the wiring done. Well, not all the wiring because we don't have everything to wire up. But that was the baseline of wiring. That's to get the car functional, working, running, and just Satsumarin, I guess. And let's now get the grille and the headlights installed. What we're going to do is we are firstly going to grab our car light bulb boxes. Right, so we got our bulbs here. Let's open them up. There we go. 2 fresh, nice looking bulbs. And what we do is we pretty much just put them in the headlight just like that. Boom, very nice. I might do the starter first because I'm probably going to forget it later. So what we want is a 7mm. Just to do up the big bolt here for the starter. And now with that done, we're now going to do this little nut here, which is a 5mm. Do that one up. Make sure you do it up all the way. Boom, that's the starter all hooked up, ready to go. Doesn't need to be touched anymore. Right, let's grab our headlights. Pop them in. For those, it is a 7mm. Alright, headlights are in. Let's now pop on the grille. That is a 6mm. Alright, that's everything done. The grille, the headlights are in, the starter's connected back up. And what do you know? The car is about 95% complete. I probably shouldn't have closed the hood because I need to open it back up for the next part. Please forgive me, but I have forgotten to do up the battery, which is an 8mm, right? So grab yourself an 8mm. And with the battery, we got 2 bolts that we've got to do. Now, when you're doing up the battery, you want to go positive to negative, negative to positive, right? So when you do up the battery, start with the positive terminal first, and then the negative terminal. So that's how you do up the battery. Now, to undo the battery, start with the negative first, and then the positive terminal, right? Because if you do the positive first, this is what happens. That actually jump scared me, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, so don't do that, because if you get too close, you will die in the game. And yeah, so that's the battery hooked up, all the wiring done. Perfect. I'm gonna leave that open because we're gonna need it open. So, with the wiring all complete, we are now going to do the fluids for the car, such as the motor oil, coolant, brake clutch fluid, and the fuel. So, firstly, we're going to start with the master cylinders here, and we're going to do the brake and clutch fluid first. So, open those up, and we're going to grab our fluid from outside. Now, it doesn't exactly matter which one you put it in, just as long as it fills something up, it's working. And when it stops like that, that means it's probably empty, which it is. So we'll put that aside and we'll grab another one. Once again, just lean it over like how I've got it now. And that's probably empty once again. Grab our third one. This is why you buy 3, not 2. Because you want to make sure they're all the way filled up. And I think that should be everything. Yep. Yep, they're all full. Perfect. Now, with this, you'll probably have about like maybe half of it left. So it's definitely worth, you know, holding on to it. And now what we're going to do is close up the lids. There we go. They're all tight. Let's now do the motor oil. So let's open up the rocket cover lid here. And let's grab our oil from outside. Once again, lean it upside down, and what we're going to do is just have it lean over the rocket cover. You may have to adjust it a little bit. There we go. Perfect. And you just let it sit here, let it fill up. Boom. There we go. So pretty much you'll have the littlest bit left, probably have quarter of it left in this. So once again, worth holding on to. And that there is all the oil. Let's close up the lid. And to confirm that we don't have any oil leaking, what you want to do is look under the car and just check if anything is leaking. If anything's leaking, that's not good. nothing's leaking. We've definitely done our oil pan bolt that we did. And to make sure that the oil's actually in the engine, let's use the dipstick and look at that beautiful, fresh gold oil. Amazing. Put that back and let's now do the coolant. Open up the lid and let's grab our coolant from outside. Now with the radiator, you can either use coolant or you could pee in the radiator. I have personally haven't found a difference between both of them. I do recommend you probably pee in the engine because I think it has the same value as coolant. If you want, you can spend the money on coolant. It really doesn't matter. You're just losing a bit of money. But I think peeing in it really doesn't make a difference. All right, perfect. That is the coolant done. This will have, I think, quite a lot in it still, so definitely worth holding on to. And let's just do up the lid. I just realized that the negative terminal on the battery has undone itself for some reason. If that ever happens to you, just do up the negative terminal with an 8mm and you should be right. So with the oil, coolant, and the brake clutch fluid now in, last thing we got to do now is the fuel. What we're going to do is we're going to open up this little lid here. Now let's press F to open up the jerry can. And what we want to do is just sort of tilt it like that, and boom, there we go. That's now refueling. All right, there we go. That's all the fuel done. So that will be enough fuel for us to get up to Timo's and back, and probably a little bit of other driving as well. I don't really know. So now all the fluids are in the car, and next up, all we got to do is the alignment for the wheels and the tuning, and start the car up. All right, so we are now moving on to the alignment for the wheels, aka the steering rods. So what we're going to need is a 14mm here, and I'm going to mention this now. You can only use a spanner for this, not a ratchet, but a spanner. So get yourself a 14mm spanner, and let's go down under the car here. So we're going to the front wheels here, and what we're looking for is that nut right there. You got the steering rod that connects up to the spindle here, and that nut is what we're looking for. Same on the other side as well. That's the one we're looking for. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna scroll down on our mouse all the way. So as you can see, the wheel is moving inwards, right? So you want to keep on doing this until the wheel stops moving completely. That's all the way down. So with the wheel not moving anymore, we now want to go up on our mouse 60 clicks. No more, no less, because you're going to have that slight offset with your steering, and you don't want that. So what we want is to go all the way down and then up 60 clicks on your mouse. So we're going to do that now. $60. There we go. So 60 clicks. We come up here, we can actually have a look at how straight the wheel is, and that looks really good. That's a lot better than this side. You can see on this wheel, there's a slight sort of offset, so it's kind of facing a little outward. Unlike this, it's like 50-50. It's perfectly straight, unlike the other wheel here. So what we're going to do is we are going to do the exact same thing, but on the other wheel. So we're going to scroll all the way down, and we're just going to wait till the wheel stops moving. There we go. The wheel has stopped moving. We are now going to go up 60 clicks. 60. There we go. So that's 60 clicks done on that wheel. And just to confirm that we did a good job, we are going to have a look and see how straight it is. Bam. Look at that. That's a lot better than what it was before. They look identical, which is good. That's exactly what you want. That was pretty easy and simple, the wheel alignment. You can get Flatari to do it, but it's really not worth it. It's like, I think it's somewhere between 300 to 500 marks for the wheel alignment, and it takes days to do that. Unlike here, we just did it in like 5 minutes. So yeah, definitely worth doing it at home, that's for sure. And it's not even hard. It's honestly probably the most easiest thing to do about this car is the wheel alignment. All right, so that's all done. Let's now tune the engine. All right, so now it's time to start the Satsuma. Now, before starting, you want to make sure you've got fuel. Make sure that the battery's connected, which we're going to do right now, because sometimes that negative terminal, in this case, it's undone itself for some weird reason again. So grab yourself an 8mm real quick and just do up that negative terminal. Yep, there we go. Those are all done up. Basically, what we're going to do is do our first startup. All right, so Close the door. Let's pull the choke out just to prevent any stalling. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the key in the ignition. There we go. That's a good sign. We've got the fuel mixture gauge that's switched on, oil lights on, and the red dash light is also on. That means we have electrics running through the vehicle right now, and that's a good thing. We're going to hold the ignition and try to start it up. Okay, that noise there, that's the starter, right? Don't worry, it's just the starter. When you get that noise, you should definitely replace your starter pretty quickly because you don't want to be stranded with a dud starter. So definitely replace that. Try again. There it is. There it is again. Okay. This time. There we go. So keep the ignition going. Don't let go because you'll just drain the battery. That little whining noise is the alternator belt. We'll fix that soon. But keep it going. Keep it going. There we go. The engine is running. Beautiful. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the engine running because we kind of want it to warm up. But to fix that really annoying high-pitched noise, that's the alternator belt. And we're going to adjust that right now. So, grab yourself a screwdriver and we are going to get over to the alternator belt. And you can see that the belt here is actually jumping, sort of thing. It's kind of just glitching out a little bit, and you don't want that. That means it's too loose, or it could be too tight. But in this case, it's way too loose because of the noise it's making. So what you want to do is undo it by just 2 clicks. That's like plenty enough. And now by hand, you want to adjust it. So scrolling down all the way on your mouse. Now the noise has stopped, but you can see that the belt is still jumping, which is bad. That means it's too tight. For the perfect adjustment, you want to do 2 clicks forward on your mouse, right? That's 1, and that's 2. And you can see that the belt is no longer jumping, which is perfect. If I was to go 1 more over, it would start making the noise. If I was to go 2 back, it would start jumping. So all the way back and then 2 clicks forward, and that there is fixed. Do that one back up again. And that there is the alternator belt fixed, and it's no longer making that really annoying high-pitched noise. And since we're here, we may as well do the distributor. So what we want to do is we want to undo this by like 2 clicks, not all the way, because you will end up stalling. So 2 clicks with that, and by hand you want to adjust the distributor. We're going to scroll down all the way until it starts making a little bit of a noise. Like that little ringing noise, that's what you want to hear. Now, what we want to do is we want to scroll back, so forward on your mouse until that noise stops happening. And now, basically, you want to sort of go back and forward until that noise sort of stops. So, right, so that noise has started. Let's go forward again until it stopped. Yep, there we go. So that noise has stopped. And let's screw that one back in. So now that is tuned properly, so we get like a lot more revs than that, a bit more power. And that there is the alternator belt and the distributor tuned, or aligned I should say. And now all we've got to do is the carburetor and the rockers. We'll do the carburetor right now since we already have the screwdriver. Now before we want to do that, we want to make sure that the engine's all warmed up. In this case, it's a little cold. It's not fully warmed up yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to gently just rev it up a bit. We want that temperature needle to be in the center, pretty much. You can see that it's slowly moving. And I'd say about there is pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the choke back in. But you can see that with the choke out, we're getting a reading of like 0.9, which is really rich. So we don't want that. So we're going to put the choke back in. And the reading we're getting now is about 13.8. That's what it's capping at, around there. Actually, it might be 13.4. Oh no, it's really jumpy. But what we want to do now is we want to get out of the car. And with the air filter on, it's a little hard to see the little screw on the carburetor. But that there is what we're looking for. So you can sort of see the screw. And now I think it's upwards. I'm going to go up by 4 clicks. And we're going to see what that did. Okay, 14. I think, yeah, 14.1. Okay, so it's a little rich still. Probably go up by 3 more clicks. 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 clicks. And boom, that's perfect. 14.7, that's where it's capping at. It's jumping around a bit, but as long as it's capping at like 14.7, that's pretty good. But yeah, what you're looking for is somewhere in the green where the optimal is. You don't want something that's too rich or too lean, right? And now with that properly tuned, you want to have a look out the back here. And you see this smoke? It's like almost a transparent sort of smoke. It's not black or it's not white. It's like a transparent sort of smoke, which is what you're looking for, because if you have a white smoke or a black smoke, you're going to fail emissions on your inspection, which you don't want, right? I've failed emissions plenty of times, and it's not fun because you got to diagnose what the issue is, and it's really annoying. But in this case, the smoke coming out of the exhaust muffler is perfect. So we don't need to touch that anymore. So what you want to do now is you want to grab yourself a 7mm, and what we're going to do is we are going to remove the rocket cover from the engine. Take off the rocket cover, put it aside, and grab yourself a screwdriver, and here are the rockers. Now I'm going to adjust it where it starts making a little noise. You hear that little noise? You don't want that at all. With the rockers, I like to adjust each little rocker all the way down on the mouse and then up by 7 clicks. And that's what I find pretty good. So that's what we're going to do right now. Now, yes, it will start making that noise. And it's probably going to stall, maybe, since we have the choke in. But what we're going to do is just undo them all. You know what I might do? I'm probably just going to turn off the engine just so you guys can actually see me adjusting each rocker, because you can't really see it that well. But you can see the screw moving. So with each rocker being all the way down, we now want to go up 7 clicks. No more, no less, because you might start getting that noise again. So that's what we're going to do right now. Alright, so that's all the rockers done. Before we put the rocker cover on, we are going to start up the car again just to make sure that we did it correctly and it's not making that little noise. So, let's start her up. There we go. We just started it up and the noise isn't happening, which is good. That's what we're looking for. And that little pop noise, I think that was just like the air fuel mixture doing something there. So, not a big worry. So, we've confirmed that that noise is not happening. Let's go back inside the car. And let's turn it off, just to save up on fuel. Now, what you want to do is grab yourself a 7mm, and let's pop on the rocker cover. Alright, there we go. That's the rocker cover back on. Right, so we've aligned the alternator belt, the distributor, the rockers, the carburetor. So everything is all good. Yeah, everything is looking all good. Just to make sure that the oil hasn't leaked anywhere. Yep, we've still got oil. That's good. I reckon now it's good time to close the hood. And I usually forget this, but we're going to chuck on the Xmas lights. Now, I know it's a little past Christmas, but New Year's is coming, so why not? You know, why not? So, let's close you up and let's go for a drive, eh? Enter driving mode. Seatbelt on. Oh, that's the starter. Oh, that's the starter again. That's the starter again. There's the starter again. Okay, there we go. Finally. Alright. So, as you can hear, we're getting good revs. It's like fast. It's not real slow sort of pickup. It's real like good pickup speed. Now, if you get a flywheel, if you get a racing flywheel, those revs can be a lot more like aggressive. Handbrake off. Let's get in the gear. Oh yeah. Okay. Easy does it. Alrighty. Few revs. Drop the clutch. Oh! So while you're driving for the first time, you want to give it a good drive, you know what I mean? You want to make sure that the wheels are straight, that you're not going off the road or anything like that. In this case, it's perfectly straight. Well, we don't really have a perfectly straight road, but just by first, alright, bit of straightness. That's straight. That's dead on straight for me. So that's pretty good. Have a look at your gauges, check your temperature, check your fuel. Yeah, in this case, temperature is like good. It's all warmed up. Fuel isn't draining massively like crazy. So everything is really all good. Just to confirm, let's chuck on the headlights, which they both seem to be working, which is great. Wipers, can't really wire up the wipers, so yep. Hazards, those are working pretty well. Yep, perfect. Yeah, so that's working, which is good. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's how you build the Satsuma in 2023. I know it's a kind of not the right time to upload this video, but I was actually supposed to upload this in like October, September sort of time. But I was really busy at that time because that's when I got my license, and I really just wanted to, all I wanted to do was drive, really. I sort of wanted to just, you know, get on this like grind, you know what I mean? And I still am. But I've only just found the time now to really work on this video. But yeah, I hope this guide helped you with building your Satsuma. Now, not a lot has changed this year for the actual Satsuma. Just probably a few tweaks here and there, bug fixes, whatnot. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found this tutorial helpful, which is the most important thing. But thank you all so much for the amazing year of 2023. This channel has like just blown up this year. It's crazy. Thank you all so much. Happy New Year, and I'll see you next year.